Hey YouTube, this is The Art of Prepping. Thanks for joining the channel today. I just wanted to talk about, what is the appeal to watch other people's videos when they go over a gear review or they go through a system. It could be a get home bag, video, a Bugout Bag video, their everyday carry video, which seems to be one of the most popular these days. It could just be some kind of a waste pouch system, maybe what they keep in their car, what they keep in their home. What they do and how they create a cache underground maybe, and so forth. And so you have all these different ideologies. And I think that the appeal to it is the fact that sometimes you do learn new things. I know I do. The more you're into this, the harder it is to find something new. I think that's just common sense, but sometimes you'll find new things. Sometimes it's more about the new gear that you didn't know was available, and you're like, oh, that's cool, I'll check that out. More so than maybe systems, but sometimes a system can be put together so well, you're like, wow. I'm so much not into really, like the Bugout Bag videos as I used to be. I'm more into like now the EDC videos, the everyday carry, and sub kit videos. Like the different, categories that build up a main kit, and how they design that fire kit, how do they design that hygiene kit, and so forth. I like that. I like to see what kind of pouches they use for that, and I mean I do still have a lot of interest in a lot of the new backpacks coming out, as I'm sure that you probably are too. But it comes down to sometimes these videos can get a little bit monotonous when you watch one bag review after a bag review. So I mix it up. I just try not to watch a lot of the same kind of content over and over, back to back, even though they're done by different people. And so I'd just be curious about what kind of videos that you kind of gravitate toward, or maybe even get stuck in a little bit. Because I know for me personally, I kind of can't seem to get enough of what people, carry on their person. What's in their pockets. It's not even a nosy thing so much. It's just kind of, I guess it's just kind of interesting in a lot of ways. But there's like different kinds of interesting, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like, sometimes it's shocking, interesting, because you're like, are you seriously, carry a gun that large and that heavy, a blade that big? Do you really carry a belt that's stiff and that thick? Do you really do this? And do you really wear combat boots every day? Or, maybe the other part of interesting is like, wow, that technology is really advanced, or that's very modern, or that's interesting because it's new to me. And then there's that last interesting, though, that it's kind of like the personality of the person and how they put these things together in combination. And that's probably the most, I guess that's the biggest part of interesting, if you will, for me. Because, like, for example, I just watched a video real recently, actually about like less than an hour ago, from the channel Tactical, Tac from Tactical. And if you haven't seen him, he's pretty funny, actually. He's just got a good personality. And he just did his new updated 2016 Bugout Bag review video. And, he's a cool guy. I really like Tac, and I think that he's just probably a really, really cool guy. Not just on video, but in real life. He's probably really kick-ass. If you were lucky enough to be a neighbor to him, I mean, you've won the lottery. But his bag, his bag is kind of, it makes me laugh. And I'm not, laughing in any kind of negative way. It's just like a chuckle. And I used to kind of be like that, to some degree, having these heavy bags. Now, I think he said his bag was like, 30 to 35 pound range. And he carries a lot of stuff that might be just a little over the top. Not too much, but just enough that it's like, okay, in a bug out, 3 to 5 days typically, you probably don't need like all that. Like, he even admitted that his bar of soap is probably a lot more than he would need, but and stuff like that. It's everybody's, it's just your preference, and where you're at. And he may not be that kind of person that over time continuously refreshes his Bugout bag or upgrades it. He might be just one of those guys, and I think he even said that it's been like 2 or 3 years since he's shown or done an update on his Bugout bag. Not that he hasn't tried to do things in between then, because he has a whole new system now, so he obviously worked on it. But I'm not so sure if it's like a major project, maybe it is, and that's no big deal. But there's just a lot of things you can tell when you watch someone that's doing their videos, if they have knowledge of the subject or not, by the very, very way that they put their kits together, the things they pick, and the rationale behind it. And you can really tell when someone kind of knows what they're doing and when they kind of just threw things together. And Tack on his tactical channel on YouTube, he's kind of fun because, in my opinion, and once again, I love the guy, so I'm not knocking him in any way. I'm just kind of just making lightheartedness of it because he was too, in a lot of ways. And it's like half of it was like his kit was, well thought out, and he has all the basics, no doubt about it. And he was, I think he hit a home run for the most part, but there's probably like 40 to 50% of the kit might have been just a little bit rushed. Some things were a little too bulky and too heavy, and maybe a little over the top. But it's just. But once again, we all live and learn, and I was there, and sometimes I still have to remind myself to keep on, refining the system. And I think that's why we probably ultimately watch these videos. Besides the entertainment value and the interest value that I talked about, those three subparts of interest, I think that we really come to the conclusion of what we can retain from that, and how we can refine our own personal systems so that we can get to that next level, whatever that may be for us personally, because we're all on different levels. Trust me, everybody's on a different level. And it's so interesting to see people who've done this for 30, 40 years before the term Bugout Bag or Get Home Bag or EDC was even around 30, 40 years ago. And these people are doing the same thing they did back then, but their systems now, and this is just typically what I've seen. I'm not saying everyone's like this, but they tend to get more and more simplified. And I think even like a few weeks ago, I watched a video that once again, going back to Tack on the Tactical channel, they're on YouTube. It's just called Tactical is the YouTube name. And Tack, he calls himself Tack. He's a masked type of a character on this show. That he talked about in his EDC recently. He did a video on, and that he's kind of reducing the bulk and the weight and maybe simplifying it, which he himself has realized that is maybe more important than what he thought. Because a lot of times, I know I do, I almost never, almost ever carry, stuff anymore that I don't use. But I used to, even going back a year or two ago, there was like the majority of what I carried, I almost never used. It was like 90% of the time I never even touched my EDC stuff throughout the entire day. And now I've got it down to the point that while there's some things I hope I don't ever touch, like firearm or maybe a defensive blade, and I just keep it there, and you don't want to touch those because those are just there for an emergency. But everything else, you kind of would want to have some type of interaction throughout the course of a day. Some people say if you go a whole week and you don't use something, besides the defensive options, of course, then you may want to remove it from your system. I don't know about that per se, because there's some things like being able to make fire and things like that I think, even since I don't smoke and I don't really use my lighter, or anything like that, but I do really like having a lighter on me. So I'm not going to go ahead and just give that up just because I don't ever use it. Rarely I ever use it, but still, I like, if there are some things that are just more of a peace of mind and having capability issues. And I think us watching other people's videos can really expand what that definition of capability is. And so I encourage everyone to continue to share their systems, their knowledge and their gear and their philosophies, because believe it or not, just like people who watch Nut and Fancy on YouTube, Nut and Fancy is he's a very controversial character as well. I don't think in a bad way or nothing, but he just he has a very specific type of philosophy about his systems, and they're not bad. I actually can think they're pretty decent. I've learned a few things, at least and putting things into different types of ideologies that I can appreciate, and I understand where he's coming from. Because he's one of those guys, too, that's been doing this and refining his system for so long that he's got it reduced to a very simplistic form for the most part. Trying to get back to basics, if you will. Even though he pretty much started out, and he'll tell you up front, when he started out with all this, he was very heavy, tool heavy, backpack heavy, everything heavy. And you have to whittle that down. You have to, because you can't enjoy sometimes your experience, hiking or any of this. Even with your EDC, if your pants are falling off because you have 4 or 5 pounds of gear, it's just not the way to go. So anyways, feel free to share your comments on this video, whatever part of the video that you want to comment on, I guess. And And thanks again for clicking the subscribe button, sharing the video, hitting the like button. I probably don't mention that enough. Hitting the like button really helps me get to be seen and to be more available and I guess what you call it, more visible in terms of search results, as we all know. So I really do appreciate that. I should probably talk about that more. But yeah, hitting that like button I really appreciate that a lot. And leave comments too. There's nothing wrong with just even leaving like a one word or a one sentence, just to kind of say, hey, what's up? I love to hear from you. It's all good. So it's a little warm here where I live, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this short here and maybe do a few things more in the house and call it a day. But you guys take care, and I'll catch you real soon.